All right, Dr. Lisa here. So, we're going to talk a little bit about a K economy. There is more than one way to make money in health and wellness outside the medical complex. So, I'm talking about being in outside the medical complex. And right now for therapists, yoga, not really the teachers, but more the yoga therapists, the physical therapists, the occupational therapists, certified athletic trainers that might be um, doing something other than traditionally on the sidelines of athletic events. I'm talking to even primary care providers that are working on a direct practice model with memberships now. I'm talking about somatic therapists. I'm talking about everyone who might be in what we would call allied health outside the medical complex. So if you're still a hybrid, this is a conversation for you with the, the economy that we have going on right now. If you're completely supported by insurance as third party, I consider you in the medical complex, even if you have your own clinic and that's your primary way. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because the conversation usually for you is, um, or the conversation right now is either enterprise model or pretty much nothing. And for those of you who are new to me, which is most people on this channel, because this is my new channel, I had another channel with my Dr. Lisa and Belly Guru and Mind Body Enterprises is my new thing. But I am a Dr. Lisa, and I'm a longtime clinician who moved into entrepreneurship for several reasons, mainly because associated with how I want to bring up my children. But I think that's a common conversation for a lot of women, and we don't talk enough about it. So I'm a longtime clinician, entrepreneur turned advisor now. And what I am helping people now do, mainly women, although this is a conversation that men are more than welcome in. It's just that they don't necessarily always hear and live the life we live. So they may not understand the circular economy as much. But I'm establishing for health established businesses right now. I want to help you redesign and redefine. I think that's the most important part, how you're thinking, communicating, structuring, and deciding really what to scale. The enterprise conversations, even in the PT conversations, even in the, well, it's definitely not in the yoga therapy conversations. We don't have enough conversations there, but in women's health and boutique practices and health coaching, things like that. Most of the time, what you're hearing right now, if you're hearing anything about AI, it is enterprise. If you're hearing anything about models of business, it is an enterprise. And all of that sort of falls into when someone else is paying you, and also when you are subject to a lot of the competitive conversations. You're not as agile. You want to really build when those enterprise conversations are talking to you, and they're talking about leadership, and they're talking about um, like conversations and how to set that up. They're rarely talking about relationship. They're still talking about transactions. And a lot of the things they're telling you to do is really stressful and really urgent. And it's all for the design of selling you on their systems. We're not going to talk about that here. Okay. Can you still be successful? Yes, absolutely. You can absolutely be successful outside of that. Many other countries do it. Many other countries that the US have sort of pushed out and called third world, and they use small tech, they use small AI, they go to specific conversations, and one of those countries is China. So if you look at what China's done, and yes, I know it's a completely different system. I'm not having a political conversation right now. But what I'm saying is before you say no, no, no to that, get into the mindset, because they're not dealing now with a K-shaped economy. And we'll get into what a K-shaped economy is. Okay. So, like I said, I'm Dr. Lisa, longtime clinician, entrepreneur, was very early in 2005 on the how do we do this a different way, mainly, like I said, because I wanted to raise my kids a certain way. I moved out of the New York's tri-state area to do it, but I wanted to use my direct access as a physical therapist. I wasn't even a doctor of physical therapy yet because this was 2005, 2004, 2005, and that was not invented yet. The DPT was not invented yet, but I knew we had direct access in North Carolina, and that's where I was headed. But even up in New York, with the restrictions of not having direct access, with me being, regular PT, a lot of needing a prescription, right? Even with that, I had wonderful mentors who were down on Wall Street in New York City back in the mid 90s making $200 an hour cash based and completely flipping the referral system. So people heard about them through their brand, through their outcomes, through the way they cared, and they knew their market being right there on Wall Street, and they had them come in for consults, and then they gave them what they would need in order to continue on with them. So they didn't necessarily even touch them, and they bought them into a program. My peers are only just entering this conversation, but that is what was in my ear. That was were my mentors. I also went to Hunter College. Shout out Hunter College for my physical therapy degree in the mid 90s. I came out in 96. I went 94 to 96, and I got my licensure in January of 97. But I had already been an athletic trainer. And similarly, that was very hands on training to then, like, literally after my classes, go be a student athletic trainer. And so I kind of looked at both of those things, and I was really confused why physical therapists were not as hands on while they were learning at the time. And I also was very confused why healthcare, when I went into it, was not operating more autonomously. I had more autonomy as a certified athletic trainer working in the sports medicine system than I did as a licensed physical therapist working in the allopathic hierarchy um, medical complex. And that was very confusing for me because I was not necessarily business minded in my first decade in physical therapy. It was only when I had children that I realized I don't want to work like this. I was working at one of the top hospitals in their sports therapy center in Midtown Manhattan with very wealthy clients, except all of my entrepreneurial ideas were limited, one by my practice act in the state of New York versus other states. So there was a real disconnect in terms of professionalism and professional autonomy depending on what state you worked in. And also, I was talking to people who the ladder at that time in the mid 90s for physical therapy and really for healthcare was inside the medical complex. So there was really no backing me on anything because unless insurance was going to pay for it, or unless an MD was going to kind of snatch me out and make me a director in their physician owned or corporate owned practice, which was my only option in getting any sort of like programming mentality out there at the time. Unless those things were going to happen, I was going to go nowhere unless I owned something, unless I owned a clinic. And it just wasn't going to happen in the way I was living in New York, not because of my economics, but because everything was really expensive. I was paying $11,000 for my plot of land with my little, I think it was a 1,400 square foot house out on Long Island. That was my dream. That was all the dream. I was 10 minutes from the beach, right? But I was literally living where people were spending two six-figure salaries to like live like outside logic to me, right? Like they were spending all their day away from their kids that they chose to have, not having any of that wonderful experience I wanted to have, just to kind of keep up appearances. And I said, I'm out of here. I'm out of here before my daughter gets into school, and then I'm working it and I'm living it, and I'd be fine in it, and it would have all worked out. But not the way I wanted to live my life. Not the way I wanted to live my life. So what does that have to do right now with where we are in a K-shaped economy? Well, let's explain it first, because in healthcare we don't talk about economics, and we need to. And the only options we're really given, or at least I was given, um, and what I still see is that you have two opportunities. You can either have a cash-based business, or you can have, if you're not a physician, and even as a physician right now, I'm not even going to get into that conversation, but basically, if you're in allied health, if you're kind of downstream in the medical complex, meaning you're not an MD, and right now, even MDs are not the top banana, okay? Right now, insurance companies and your board and your private ventures that have gone into owning your hospital system and probably even owning your clinic right now, because that's how you made a deal. They're all in charge of you. Okay. So there really is no autonomy, even if you have your DPT and you have more autonomy being in fitness and wellness right now, which is why I did other choices and became the belly guru instead of being like, Dr. Lisa, my clinic and my physical therapy clinic and all of that, because it just was not smart. It just was not smart economics. So I'm going to explain several more models that you may have not heard of and why that works better for why we're talking with. One in particular, what I teach or advise people on. I taught in my Mind Body Brand Academy, but they just didn't get it because I didn't really get it yet. We weren't where we are right now several years ago for Mind Body Brand Academy, but really there's several business models besides cash-based and insurance, because or a hybrid. They give you three. There's much more. There's much more. And this video is going to outlive me, because people I don't even think are going to be able to get this. But I'm gonna kind of teach you right now. If you're listening to this, smart. You're smart. Okay. If you want to stay small, that's smart. Okay. You don't have to own 3 clinics. You don't have to bring in a bunch of cash-based modalities. We are literally, I can't even understand. I was listening in on a business thing, and because I was just curious, what's out there? Because I kind of just said, I'm going to go my own road. I'm going to teach my own people, and whoever listens to me is going to be smart. Everybody else is going to just drink the Kool-Aid, okay? And be in the cult. And we're literally there. We're literally there. But 10 years ago, when I went into kind of focusing on leadership and relational development of our positioning, of your positioning anywhere, either any of the hats I held, yoga therapist, physical therapist, community health leader, entrepreneur, mompreneur, like I wore all the hats because I was that. I was that. Many women are. But 10 years ago, when I went into that and thinking we really need better leadership, I had no idea what was going to happen with the pandemic and this and that, but I was talking economics. I was talking economics, okay? So if you're here, you're smart. If you're staying lean, you're smart right now, because we are going through nothing we've ever gone through before. All of these economic channels and this, nobody has gone through the country that it was the power structure for the past 50, 60 years in the conversation, suddenly deciding that they're the bad guys, and the entire global economics being adjusted for it. Okay. So we don't have to worry about that. We are not victim of that. We're already, if you're already established, you've already determined that you are in your own economics. Okay. We're just going to expand the conversation a little bit. And I want to talk about the kind of the K economy, because I believe that's where we are. So I'm going to show my little board, just K economy right now. Don't worry about all the rest of this. But in a K economy, I'm kind of backwards here. In a K economy, I've named it for a health economy, that up and down line of the K, that's care. Okay? You can make your K as a small K, where the care is really low, lowercase k, or an uppercase K, where you maybe get with the care mediocrity. Okay, but in a K care economy for healthcare, you're looking to maintain and sustain. Okay, because it's not really good, because the wealth, which is that kind of upward line right there, the people that are involved in wealth are basically medicine right now. Okay, medicine has succumbed to the health insurance company, which bought it, and they're all, and the boards and everybody. I don't care how corporate health, big health. We're going to call it big health. Okay, and I'll explain that in a second. But big health, they're in this. They're in this line. Okay, the most they're going to give you is sustainability and mediocrity. They're just going to keep selling it and marketing it like it's the best thing since sliced bread. Okay? But anybody who's been in there, which is anybody who's had to have an electronic medical record or it's changed to a electronic medical record because you were smart enough to use small tech that way, knows that that was sold to us as this be all end all sliced bread thing that was going to make all care better. All roads were going to lead to better health care. Okay? It hasn't happened yet. And in fact, for the United States of America, it has regressed. All of our stats show it. It's gotten really big on this line and really small on this line, which is health. Okay? In traditional economics, they're going to say this is the wealthy class. Okay, all the owners, all the operators, the wealth makers, okay, the owners and things like that. And this is all the people that work for them that kind of like are stuck, and like the general public, the lower class, like there's not even a middle class in a K economy. Some people are talking about an E economy, that they think it's more of an E economy, that there is like a branching from this wealth class. Another branching, like a third line. That's why they're saying there's like 3 lines off of this continuum. Because they're saying now there's like the professional, and I see this. I see this. There's a strain on people who were white collar workers. Like when I came out of school, I was considered like going the track of the white collar worker, not the blue collar worker. But like most of my peers are strained because, and even MDs right now, most of the people that work for hospital systems and hospital corporations, they are strained because, like I said, the wealthy now are the owners of healthcare, and healthcare is no longer owned by the professionals that provide it. We have the liability, but we no longer have the perks. Okay, because even MDs are sitting there on TikTok saying how they can own a surgery center and nobody can come because nobody can pay for the care because everything's gotten crazy. Except our morbidity and our mortality rates have not gone down, right? So I'm going to say, for all intents and purposes, we're in the K, okay? But you need to understand the game here. You need to understand the game. Everyone in the top of that K, okay, everybody in that arrow now, you no longer work for. You no longer should work for them. And if you do work inside that system, you need to understand your perks are going to be limited. You are there because you want a steady paycheck. You want to be able to play like you're like, hey, my title makes me something. You want to wear the white coat, okay? And even if you're outside it and you're getting insurance, you're playing a dangerous game. Because unless you're hybrid already, you are still in, you're still working for the man. You're still living in the house of the oppressor. Okay? Until somebody can put a comment here that radicalizes me different than what I've seen for the past 25 years, then that's where you are. Okay? And that's fine. That is fine. That is a steady paycheck. That's a mom that just wants to just use her education and help some people and want to do that. That's nursing when you get out of school and you're going to work in the hospital system. That is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're social work there and you're doing anything like inside that model, you are there for the IRA. You're not even there for the continuing ed I got out of school. You're there for the paycheck, and you're probably going to cry a lot of days when you come home. So you need to maybe work with someone that's like supporting you for your health and well-being. You need a health coach and you need a spiritual coach. And that's just where it is. I'm talking about this line right now, the ones that want health. And yes, a lot of your people in the regular economics conversation are there right now, there with you. So what we're talking about is community health. Okay? We're no longer in medicine. I know your title gave you rehab medicine. If you were PT, OT, speech, that's wonderful. But health coaches, yoga therapists, certified athletic trainers, don't even get on that game. Don't even worry about it. You don't want a white coat. You don't want to work inside a hospital. If you work inside a hospital, it's because you own your practice and you've literally contracted yourself for $100,000 that year to provide whatever it is you want to provide for them. Otherwise, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? Talk to me, contact me via my digital business card, www.drlisahollandpt.com, and we'll have a conversation of it. Join my YouTube, listen to my thing, go on my Substack. You'll know what you're doing, but don't worry about getting that. Don't chase that white coat. Don't chase that white coat, okay? So we're in community health conversation for the rest of this, okay? We're 20 minutes into this. We're only going to talk about 10 more minutes, okay? There are several models you can do in community health. I'm only going to talk about what's there in terms of the way that the system works, okay? And then what is being sold to you, which is, again, very viable, but you're going to have some trade-offs. And if you're a woman and if you're a mother, I don't think you want to do it that way. There is a very lucrative model. Again, not going to knock it, but I have a feeling many of you who brought in yoga into your practices like me, even after getting your DPTs and all of these other credentials. I literally had 30 letters after my name with all my credentials at one point, okay? Like, you've done the thing. I feel like you're seeking, like you're chasing something, and it's not been there through taking that expert, what we would call completely cash-based, but the consumer, the customer health model, okay? I believe you're probably not wanting to be niche Lux Health. I believe you want to take that kind of customer, client, cash-based model, but like escape from the matrix, if I'm correct, right? So that's going to be that last third one. But really quick, let me show you the picture. Okay, I know this is opposite, but basically look at the shapes. We have the two pyramids that are feeding into each other. If it's pink, that's an exit route. That's not really being taken right now on that first model. So we've got kind of like the pyramid and the hierarchy model, which is basically grabbing that hierarchy out of medicine and sticking it into community health. You can do it. You can do it. But you're going to have this inverted model kind of working for you. And I think it's just too much money for too little ROI. I mean, too much labor, too much energy, too much marketing for too little ROI. I think energetically, you'll get freedom. Like, you'll feel freedom and you'll practice the way you like want to, like your hours will be what you want to. And there's some creative ways to sort of do this, but for the most part, you probably, it's just like a prettier form of what you were in. So like, you might want to like weigh it out and be like, maybe I'll just go back into making money in medicine, like that, okay? But for the most part, I just want to explain that the hierarchy, and again, this will be its own kind of class, but for the most part, the entry is something urgent. This is episodic care. It's not maybe medicine. It might be community health because you're community facing, but you're kind of operating it like you did in medicine. You're just kind of in charge of everything. So it's episodic, it's urgent. The person's got to have some sickness or some injury or some pain complaint to even associate with you. Like, that's their entry into you. That's the reason they think they need you, because that's how you've built your brand. So you're going to have some sort of diagnosis. And yes, as a physical therapist, I could diagnose, I'm functionally diagnosing you, but I'm seeing where you're not functional. And then I'm like finding your like movement diagnosis or your care diagnosis. Or like I don't need a medical model. That's what I'm saying. We're outside medicine. We don't need a medical diagnosis to be here, especially if you have direct access, which means they can walk off the street and decide they want to work with you, okay? Then you're going to have, if you're if you're an MD, there's going to be, and you're a surgeon, if you're a specialist, and you have the ability to go in invasively, meaning you're going to prescribe them something or surgery, like you're going to change their biochemistry, or you're going to literally cut into them and do some surgery because you're a surgeon. You have that option, right? You have that tier. And all of these things are giving you money, okay? And at the very top, you get your least amount of money from chronic care. So like at that point of chronic care at the top, you're feeding them sort of out. Now, here's where you can escape. If you have a good business system, kind of like the second thing, okay, and you can funnel them into a membership at that point, you're converting into this. It's an upside down funnel. It's not really a hierarchy anymore. You're working a little bit more like this, but it's got its own problems. But if you can do that, you can escape the system. You can escape the matrix, and you will be functioning very well in community health. Not there. I think my model down at the bottom is the best, but you'll do okay. You'll have more happiness. I'll put it that way. Okay? But for the most part, what's happening is this person that has a chronic condition, they get sent to a specialist. So they get put back into another funnel, which is the MD. A lot of people coming to that specialist MD. Or they get referred into a PT or an OT, but it's in that hospital system and it's all a big corporation at that point, right? Because we all know that unless the MD owns it or the hospital system you're working for owns it, you're not encouraged to really send people outside that hospital system because they're the ones that are getting paid the most in all those different directions from the insurance companies. Let's be honest, right? But for the most part, allied health, right? That's another tier. That's your MDs, your PT, your OT, your speech, pathology. Even social work has a tier. Social work's invested in this. And if you were smart and you're no longer inside the medical complex and you think you're doing community health, but it's really operating still like this, I'd make much more use of social health and allied health and operate a little bit more like my model, okay? Because you're going to optimize yourself. You're going to get much more referral back into you than this garbage. Because guess what? Once they leave that funnel, chances are they're either more sick because they never actually got better, they had another episodic care and they went back in, and everyone knows they don't like to see the person over and over and over because the money is very small in chronic management. Okay? I mean, basically, you're waiting for them to die because they're not getting any better. And chances are they're going to die, and then they're not giving you any money. I mean, that's the reality of it. Or they escape because they're sick of you, even though you're no longer in medicine, but you're not really operating like a community health leader either, and they're sick of you, and they escape into population health. And you know where they're going to end up going? They're going to end up going into fitness and wellness and influencers, influencer health, which is what we have. It's come up from bro marketing. It's basically come up from everybody who makes their $100,000 framed disc, and then their $1 million disc, and they sell whatever the hell they want as a health influencer. And they go to Russell Brunson's marketing, whatever, ecosystem, and they all become like making money out of that. Okay? Again, not a problem. Alex Hormozi in school, he bought school. Why did he buy school? Because he operates like me. He operates like this last one. Okay? Alex Hormozi bought school because he was setting himself up like this. He bought the ecosystem. And then he convinced you all to do this. Actually, he convinced you all to do this. He convinced you all to do this, which is 2 models down. So we're going to separate these two models, and that's what the other two models that I've been taught as my options are. You can have the reverse funnel where you're the big kahuna, right? You're the big kahuna, and you're going to try to keep owning all of this, okay? But the way that is you're the big kahuna, and you're going to sell programs. So they're going to come to you cash-based, consumer. They're going to find your brand. I used to teach this. I used to teach this as a model. This was Mind Body Brand Academy. This was fine, okay? Nothing wrong with it. But we're past this in the AI era to deal with a K economy where you're on this arm. Unless you've already decided to just sell out healthcare and work for the man and just get your paycheck, then you're over here. You're not even over here, really. You're not even over here in wealth when you're doing that as an employee, as a therapist. If you own the healthcare center, if you own the hospital, if you're on the board, if you're private equity, or if you're in an insurance company or on the insurance company board, then you're the top of this K. But otherwise, guys, we're on the bottom K. Okay? And you just got to know that. You could be making $1 million practice and you're still operating here. Because when the economy tanks, if you're not operating here, or you're at least not operating here, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, even cash-based, because guess what? All those wealthy people that you sell to, they're all going to leave the country and go get healthcare elsewhere. They're going to get their wellness elsewhere, and they're going to live outside the United States. They're not going to stay here, okay? They're already doing it. They no longer buy your program. You were a big wig making millions of dollars as an health influencer back in 2016, and nobody's buying your books now. You know why? Because they're probably selling your shit. They're probably selling it. They probably took your program and they're selling it and getting a lot of money with their infrared commercials for their face masks and their hyperbaric chambers that they're getting all of the rest of their rich friends who can still be on the up part of the K in longevity precision medicine. So unless you're niche and Lux Health in this second option and you're selling precision longevity medicine right now, you're here. You're still here. Don't fool yourself. You're still here. Okay? And if you're not a sellout, you should be here. Okay? All right. So you're the big kahuna and you sell programs. That makes you a little less money than being the big kahuna that you get to talk and write the books and all that stuff. And now there is a layer. This is what I'm seeing get sold in PT right now. If you have clinics, the accelerator level. The accelerator level a few years ago for you was teaching other PTs how to have businesses in this niche Lux model. But we're on a K economy now in an AI era, and that no longer gives you the income that used to. Because guess what? All the people that used to buy from you are on this leg of the K, and they did not get enough income out of buying all your systems that you sold them. Okay? Why? Because you sold them. They didn't get enough income because you sold them better than I did on Mind Body Brand Academy, because that was not my priority going through a divorce at the time, to be perfectly honest. But that's a whole nother story. Okay? So we have accelerators, which right now are no longer those programs, except for a few of you that made a lot of bucks becoming the Russell Brunsons of PT and allied health. Okay? You know who you are. That's not going to help the profession. So right now, I'm not talking to you or anybody that wants to make money with you. Go for it. Go for it. You're gonna cause the collapse of the profession, and you're gonna start getting real idiots in the profession, and it's gonna tank itself because there's way too many ways, including Hinge Health and other apps using AI right now to completely collapse the profession. Okay? Another time, another talk. Okay, we're up to 34 minutes here, and I want to be done by 40. So the thing that helps you with this, and again, I taught in Mind Body Brand Academy, is if you make this a membership. If after they leave, after they took your program and the accelerators, which right now are no longer the programs. I see you selling it. It's your H-wave, it's your modalities. We've literally come full circle, and you're fine selling modalities. 15 years ago, you couldn't catch a big wig PT telling you to sell your modalities. They called you a sellout. They called you a shake and bake shop. Well, now they see the light. It was the business model, because they knew it was a scam because it was up in here, because they weren't making any money out of it. But now they realize they can't sell their McConnell tape with their name on it. They can't sell their continuing ed with their name on it. They can't sell their new way of using a TheraBand with their name on it. And so now they're selling you back and putting you on a massage machine. Now they're perfectly fine with it. That's fine. All I'm saying is, let's just listen to what I've been saying to you for the past 10 years. Please, please, instead of going on one of their things and giving them a lot of money, just listen to me. I'm going to have you do this on YouTube videos. And if you want me to do it for you, then talk to me, okay? Expert. That's the third wave. But that's a very niche Lux Health market. This is if you've given up on real community health, okay? I'm calling it a community health model because it's no longer in medicine. So we have healthcare. Healthcare is bifurcated into the arm of medicine. That's the industrial medical complex. There are allied health people underneath there, but they're probably needing to move out if they really want to help community health. If they really want to help population health and community health, a lot more of them need to be here, and we need to be operating medicine differently. Again, different YouTube, different conversation. In this niche Lux Health, I'm just going to go through it because I'm not necessarily a proponent of it. You're the main expert. You're the only expert. You're writing the books. You're making most money non-clinically. So you're not making most of your money clinically anymore, okay? You're the expert. You might employ people who are like at your center. You've got your brand. You've franchised it. That's all great. Again, all wonderful, great works. In fact, I would have preferred you do that and make a franchise and help other health providers in community health become wealthy, instead of teaching them to stay inside this cash-based community health model, okay? But for the most part, you're going to prescribe something, right? You're the expert. You're making money off of that. But all of this is really where you're making your millions, okay? You have centers, but other people are working there. You have memberships at those centers, and you have products. And if you're smart, you've white labeled it. Like you took a white label and you stuck your name on it, or you have your own label, and you're making money. But here's the economics in that, okay? You're operating here because I'm not saying that you're giving mediocrity care, but for the most part, you're sort of not improving anyone's health by being here, because you're working with such a small unit. You know what I mean? Like you're only improving wealthy and fairly healthy people's like longevity. Right now, a lot of them just want to be billionaires, and they're not. I'm not necessarily looking to help them. I'm not looking to help them and then have all these people die and be sick. That's just not that's just not where I am. Okay? Do they need health too? Yeah, but they're going to leave the country, and they're not going to support the profession, and they're going to go on Hinge Health, and they're going to go on their app, and they're going to ask ChatGPT, and they're going to go on Perplexity Health, and they're just not going to necessarily use you after your status as the sexiest thing in healthcare goes. Like, so go make your money, do your investments, but like you're not in the conversation I'm having, which is to actually improve community health, okay? While you can improve your wealth, while you can get up on here on the top curve, and you're not going to make this bigger. I'm making a capital K, and I'm moving care up. So my K looks like awkward because the K starts all the way up. Okay, that's the conversation I'm having. That's what I'm building. That's what I'm building infrastructure for. That's what I'm going to get paid for. Okay. But I'm going to help you do all this so that you can be in my care networks and my infrastructure. Because I don't want my care network infrastructure to be a bunch of niche luxury practices. Unless you learned and are teaching people the cash-based business model to help community health. Unless you have a level of your programs that help these guys lowering their health right now, then I'm not the person helping you. You can go do that, but I'm not the person helping you. Okay. But that ecosystem, right? It's just sort of like churning here, and you keep them sort of needing you, and then whatever you sell, they're gonna like this niche Lux Health thing. You just got to be careful, because if you're not a good person, you're going to become a cult leader. You're going to become a cult leader, and then that has its own problems, because then you're selling anything, and right now you're the person selling AI-led PT practices or AI-led functional medicine practices. Like everything's AI to you right now. Everything's AI. You're not talking on the human side like I am at all. Okay? Because you don't care, because you're going to make them millions of dollars. And that's what they're probably in business for, right? To make millions of dollars. Well, I'm talking to the people that are in business that want to make money. And I don't know if they'll make millions of dollars, but they're going to do it in helping community health, not helping medicine, and not helping health insurance companies steal from people at all. Okay. And this is what we're going to talk about. It's going to have its own video, but I just want to say this curvy hustle, this circular economy nestled with the economy inside society, that's that word just rubbed off, and environment. So society is bigger than the economy, the economics. Okay? Society is more important. The environment that society is in is more important than your economic profits. Okay? So if that just turns you off, I'm not your person. I'm not your person. But it's an escape. It's an escape route. If you can do this as your economic system, as your system for your business, and bring in aspects of expert, that hierarchy expert, and aspects of kind of flipping the funnel and the consumer health cash-based model, and you do it with ethics, you're my people. You're my people. Okay? So I'm looking forward to it. I just want to open up the possibilities. I'm going to get into that circular economy. I'm going to get into that final model, okay? That circle thing on my Substack, okay? So you can look at the show notes and go onto my Substack at Dr. Lisette Alvarez Holland over there. Dr. Lisette Alvarez Holland over there, Curvy Hustle. And my publication is tied to my podcast, Owning Her Health, the Afterglow. Okay? All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks so much for being here. Let me know in the comments if any of that made sense to you. It's okay if it didn't. Where you are, which one of those models that you think you're operating in, and go join my Substack if you're interested in learning any of what I was talking in terms of how could you have a little bit of the best of all of it without basically losing trust with your people, losing your integrity and quality because of your, I call those three things your coherence. And in my idea, if you're not with your coherence, in my opinion, if you're not in your coherence, you're not neuroregulated. You're not selling. You're selling probably from a wound and not a scar. And I think in healthcare, that's really, really dangerous. I think we're seeing that, and I think you're going to get lost in the chaos because of that AI and enterprise healthcare conversation. So I hope to see you over my Substack.